Hello, welcome to Seymour's World. My name is Seymour Kazimirski. Last week was really incredible. We had so many calls regarding our musicians at Make 'Em Smile. I want you to know that we are going to have their music, both Jason and Aaron's music, on our website. We have decided, with the help of Leah Bernstein from Mountain Apple and Jimmy Borges, to actually record most of our musicians to be able to have a playlist that hospital patients will be able to listen to whenever they want. So that is excellent news for both our musicians and for the patients. This week we're very lucky. I'd like to introduce you to Fanny Wedro. This young lady lives in Calgary, Alberta, and comes to Hawaii for her winters. Fanny is a Holocaust survivor, but very, very unusual. She's not from Poland and not from Germany. She is from the Ukraine. And we're going to start our story by asking Fanny to give us her background. Fanny, why don't you begin?
Thank you, Seymour. My story is altogether a different story than everybody else's, because for 30 years I've been speaking at symposium, and I was speaking, and guess what? When I came to speak, he said, "We don't see a number on your arm. Where are you? Were you in a concentration camp?" I said, "No." But I said, "I was in the ghettos." "Warsaw Ghetto? You'd almost think I'm a hero." I said, "No." And I have almost like a mission to come and tell what happened to the Eastern European Jewry, because 1.5 million people perished and died in the Eastern Europe. You see, when the Germans it's very, very hard to explain, because I was born in Poland. In 1939, the Russian, we were taken over by the Russian. In 1941, the Germans, and then came the Russians, and now it's Ukraine. So just have to figure out where I come from. When the Germans came into our town, which was in the end of June of 1941, and
Pardon me, Fanny.
It was. It came in like hell on earth. We had a chance to go away, to leave our town when the Russian retreated, and they told us, "Please come with us." But we figured out, my father remembers the Germans from the times, from Franz Joseph's times, so he says, "No. There's a propaganda that in Russia they're dying of hunger, and the death of the sword, it's easier than the death of the hunger. What will they do to us? They were very nice people, the Germans. They won't do nothing to us," and so on. So anyway, as a matter of fact, we were already ready. We went as far as Zhytomyr, and then we returned. But when we returned, we returned to hell. We didn't not only had the Nazis, we also had our neighbors against us.
You mean the Ukrainian people?
Yeah.
Were against you. Explain that when you say they were against you, Fanny.
Well, first of all, when they came, the Germans, they came in, they formed a Judenrat, that's a community council. And it came out that every Jewish person has to have an armband on his hand of white with a Star of David, and on the houses had to be a Star of David. Just tell me, how did the Germans or the Nazis knew where Jewish people live?
So you're saying the Ukrainian people were their collaborators?
The collaborators, and immediately they opened up the militia, the Ukrainian police, and they were the bosses. Anyway, they took us every day. They decided they needed. You see, now I understand. But when I was a child, I was only when they came. They took away my father. And they took them on a place to work, and he never returned back. Which after the war, just now in '92, I will put up a monument down there. They took that was a day of Prochista, that's a Ukrainian holidays, and one man, Redka, that knew him very well, took my father away from me. I was walking with my father, and he says, "Look, my dear, go home and tell your mother that he'll be in the evening home." They took him to work, but he never returned. And so life was going on. Every day we had to go to work. We had to report to the Judenrat. We had to go to work. We worked on the roads because those days was cobblestones, and they took us very, very hard. And we were allowed to get 100 grams of bread a day. So I was a kid. I was a child. It was that time when they came in. I was 14. So so we stood in line 3 o'clock in the morning. We stood in the line for bread. But you know what? They had themselves such a good time. The Ukrainian police and the Germans, when we stood in line, a big truck would go and run over us. Some were dead here and there. And I remember one time I came, and I came my next to come, and there was, and said, Schluss, no more bread. So we didn't even get 100-gram bread that day. But they used to hit us with whips. They used to whip us. So my mother put my brother's jacket on me, books in the front, books in the back, tied me with a rope.
To protect you from the...
To protect, fine. And that was going on. Then one day, Erev Shavuot, it's our holiday. You see, so my mother said, there's so many people on the streets. She woke me up. My father wasn't there anymore. My brother was working there by the Germans, and he was out of the town. They took him. So I give a look at so many people on the street, unbelievable. So they took us in the. So my mother, we went out of the house when somebody grabbed us and took us in the line, and we were going, and the Polish people and the Ukrainian people were staying at the side, and the Germans and the police, they were with guns, with rifles, and we were just herded, downtown into town, at the marketplace. And when we came down there, before we came to the marketplace, there was a big house, and we had to take off the clothes, like the coats and everything, and the jewelry. My mother had a ring, and she had earrings. They had to take it off. But before that, before even they started they herded us, they came a few days before, and they asked for gold and silver, whatever we had, cutlery,
and you just had to give it to them?
We just had to give it to them. But those days, I was a child. I didn't realize that we were buying a day of life. Well, yes, we had to give it to them. And then that was Erev Shavuot when they took us in down there. Then from that Monastirska street, where they took off mountains of clothes, if you would have seen mountains and mountains and mountains of clothes were laying down there. And the jewelry was the people had with them. Then we had to walk about a block or two, and we were staying like this, me and a friend, because I come from a small town, and she said to me, let's stay in front of the mothers, because we knew they were killing. There's rumors, but maybe they'll kill us first, so I won't see our mothers dead.
Oh my gosh.
So I stood beside her. That was Rivka Smoller. Her brothers were in Toronto, they used to believe. And that was now, all of a sudden, one German came over and he said, you by the finger, point out, and he pointed to me. And he says, how old are you? And I said, was going to say 14 started, and my mother said, she's 16. And I didn't want to go. And just because I didn't, he yanked me, pulled me by my arm, and I had to go. I had no other choice, he just took me. That was the last what I saw of my mother. And they took that day, they left 71 people, 71, and they took us on we stayed outside in a yard by somebody's house. I still remember the name is Kleiner's house. And we're sitting on the ground, and you don't know what's going to happen to us or something. But we hear the shooting, boom, 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 it was going, because it's only 7 kilometers. Later we found out where it was. And then we had in town, we had a lady, Rosa. she wasn't, somehow, we used to say she's not with it. You know, she was a little mental, and she had a 2-year-old child. So the Germans made us say, dance, Rosa. And we were sitting, and Rosa was dancing. Say, Heil Hitler. Rosa said, Heil Hitler. In the meantime, they take the child from her. And then she wants the child to take, she wants to grab the child, and the other one, so they played ball with the child. Then she took by the arm, the Nazi, German, the soldier, and smashed it right the fence. And, oh, the picture is still vivid in my mind. It was horrible. It was the blood spattered, and the head was completely smashed with a 2-year-old child. And we were all sitting, so kind of, came around 4 o'clock. He said, go to your houses. And tomorrow you have to report to the Judenrat. So what happened, the killing was a mass killing, was started in the morning, whatever time. By 4 o'clock it was finished. Whoever was left alive was left alive. But of course they needed the people to work still. So I came home. What home? There was nothing in the house. Nothing, not a stick of furniture, nothing. It was all robbed. They robbed us blind. So I came over to my next door neighbor, which she was Polish, and she was like my second mother. And I came over to her and I says, Pani Janicka, I haven't got no one anymore. I haven't got a mother. And she says, get out of here. Żydówka, Jew. So I fell on my knees and I said to her, and I hugged her, I said, Pani Janicka, I haven't got no one. I haven't got a mother. I haven't got no one. And she says, get out of here. She chased me out. So we had to report the next day. So I went on the floor and I lied down. What, I was a 14-year-old child. No one was left from the family. No aunties, no uncles, no cousins, no one. So I went and we reported to the Judenrat, and they said that they were going to have, we're going to have the ghetto to report tomorrow and to go to the ghetto. So they took a couple streets, and there were so many people in the van, because what it was, whoever was left alive, some people knew already what was going on, the shooting, so they went on the attic and some were hiding. So there were quite a few. And then they told us we have to go to this and this, they assigned us a place. But we got to go, first we have to go to the Judenrat, and afterwards we have to go on Skolner Street. When we came to that Judenrat, they started to march us. We marched to a place 7 kilometers, a place that's named Kazakh. You came down there, it's a beautiful place in the forest, 3 massive graves. And the way they were laying, flat, and we had to cover them. How long, many days, I don't know, but we came the next day, but there was no blood. The next day, there was like little, on a map you see little patch, the earth was patched, and like little rivers of blood. I found my mother's scarf at the side. They had no clothes on. And on the on the third day, the earth moved. You could see it move. But you know what? We didn't cry because everyone was in the same boat. We couldn't grieve, we couldn't cry. Everybody was in the same boat. Whom are you going to cry for?
Let's take a break, Fanny. This is Seymour Kazimirski from Seymour's World and on Think Tech Hawaii. Fanny, this is a very difficult story, and unfortunately it's all true, and it's indicative of so many stories we've heard from the Holocaust, including my mother's, and it's just so hard. But you know, you're here, and you made it.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks to whatever resources you had at the time, whatever strength you had at the time, you were able to come through. Do you mind continuing the story?
No, not at all. So we came and we were in the ghetto. You know, after so many days we came, and they took us for work and so on. But there, when we were able to get out of the ghetto. It wasn't walls. There were no walls around. But we had the militia. It's a small town. Each one knew everybody. There was Michka Zaverucha, there was Redka, there was Pavlovsky. As a matter of fact, I met one, you know, after in '92. So, and then I'd say, I don't remember how many days we went to cover the graves. And we were in we were working, and the life was very, very hard, difficult, listen. But I snuck out of the ghetto, and I came to a lady, and her name is Pasha. She used to deliver milk to us, you know, in the mornings. And I came over to her, and she was so nice to me. She gave me like yogurt, and she gave me some bread, and I said, Pashinka, I'm so hungry. So she gave it to me, and she says, you know what? Your mother came to my dream. She's so happy there. The only thing, it's wet for her. You cry too much, it's wet for her. And the minute I says, Pashinka, I promise you I won't cry, but I promise you, Pasha, I'll live through the war, I'll outlive Hitler, and I'll come and see you. But she says, please don't come no more, because her life was in danger too. So she gave me a loaf of bread, and I went back to the ghetto. Well, and that's the way it was going on till the Tabernacles days.
And what is that? What?
The Sukkot.
Right. Okay.
See, they had the Aktia, the Shchitot, the mass killing. They had Erev Shavuot and Erev Sukkot.
So the mass killings were on both the holidays, the Jewish holidays.
On the eve of the Jewish holidays. But it was already rumors going around, you know, I mean, the ghetto, that there's partisans, and so it's going on. So I went over to the head that's organizing this. His name was Yadya Mishatz, was a big partisan, Atrado partisan. And I said to him, take me, please. And he says, you haven't got a gun, and you're too young. They only take people older, and if they've got some, where would I get a gun? Anyway, and there was rumors that they figure out that the Aktia will be tomorrow.
And that's the time?
Erev Sukkot.
Right.
Well, everybody wasn't alert. So what the rabbi did, I don't know, he took a Sefer Torah.
Which is the Torah scrolls.
The Torah scrolls. And he put the ghetto on fire, and he says, jump with me into the fire in Kiddush Hashem. Well,
so I
didn't know if he jumped or not. Don't quote me. I know that the ghetto was on fire, and it's documented. It's even encyclopedia. You know, it's documented. So our ghetto on fire, and people started to run.
And you ran out of the ghetto?
And I ran. And how long I ran, I don't know, to tell you the honest truth. I know when I turned around, they were shooting from up above, and because down, we ran down the hill. And when I turned around, there was the name Fege Kammerstein. I remember she was laying without an arm. And I was running, ran and ran, I don't know, and I came into a cemetery. And I saw a hole. I didn't know what was a grave, what was a child, what did I know? And I jumped into it. So I jumped into it, and I fell asleep. And I didn't realize I'll bring a body. What did I know? I was my job, my instinct was to run. I didn't know. I didn't have food, or did I? I don't remember, to tell you the honest truth. And I just ran into a. And in the morning, I don't know how long I was down there. Oh, I'd have jumped to crawl out. It's not. It's easier to jump in than to crawl out. I crawled out. And I started my journey. I started to walk. My father was a herborist, so I knew in the forest. I started to go in that directions into the forest. And then I knew a lady, which her name was Lunka, so I stopped by her place, and she said to me, you can't stay here, but there's some people that are in the forest. Why don't you go and join them? So I did. It was Yashamalar. I remember even the Shapiro. I remember the faces. I remember the names. And then I said I fell asleep. And my mother came into my dream and says, get out of here. Go to the Levache. Never heard the name Levache. On the other side of Sluch River. This I knew. I learned the Sluch in school. But never heard. So I got up in the morning and I said, there where I'm going, they made fun of me. The same night, they came down, somebody said that they're Jewish people, and they killed them.
Wow.
That shows you it's faith. There was a reason why I'm here. Because I speak for the people that nobody knew about them. 1.5 million people which died, and everybody knows the concentration camp, and everybody knows, you know, the ghetto, Warsaw Ghetto.
But when you were going through this, and you lost your mother, you lost your father, you lost all of your family.
Yeah.
What drove you, Fanny? What was I mean, everybody wants to live.
Yeah.
But did you ever think of giving up? Did you ever?
No. There's something I think it's in a person. It's the beast in you to survive or something, because you know, I saw dead people walking. It's nothing. Now, for instance, I wouldn't go in the evening through a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
But those days, it's such a will to survive that you don't, there's the beast in you. It brings out not the best in you, but the worst in you, you know? So, and that time I made a journey into the forest. 18 months to be in the forest. To be infested with scabs, with lice, typhoid. Oh, I'm telling you, when I think about it, could that have happened to me? No, it's impossible, you know. But unfortunately, he did. And we survived. People were dying like flies in the villages from typhoid. It was an epidemic. We were a few people in the forest. We had the typhoid and we survived. No doctors, no nothing. And there was time, and the thirst, you have such high fever that you want to drink. So where I was, I ran away so far from our place, we hit White Russia, Polessia, which is now White Russia. Can you imagine? That of deep into the forest. What did I know then? I didn't. So we went, and then I worked in the villages. I told them I'm from a kolkhoz, and I told them a story. I'm sure they knew. And the partisans started to take over the village and so on. It was. How can I tell you? It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that this all can happen to a person, and that people can be so cruel to do to people. That's unbelievable.
Fanny, you and I both attended a movie the other night called The Aftermath, which is playing at the Kurt Kazimir Film Festival here in Honolulu. And you were touched by that movie, I could tell. And I spoke at that movie. And the one thing that really made me feel that I really didn't know that much about what it was like was to see how the Polish people collaborated with the Germans. And you're saying it's the same thing with the Ukrainian people. It must have been, was it difficult to see all of these people all of a sudden show their true colors to you? I mean, that must have been amazing.
When I could go to my next door neighbor, that she was like my second mother. When it came the Christmas, they called it Święty Nikolai. And it was always on the tree something for me. Well, those days, you know, if you had a little book, or a candy, something. And then she chased me out of the house. She said, that's right. No, she told me a different story. Get out of here, on account you is the war.
So she blamed you for the war?
She blamed the Jews, Żydówka. You know, I can't me, it's the war. No, did I create the war? How do you like that? Look, it was a tough, but to go through the forest, it's not an easy life. Believe me, it wasn't easy. And when we came out of the forest, I mean,
what year was that, Fanny?
I was liberated in 44. Because, you see, in 42, there were no Jewish people in this area. It was Juden-free. Whoever was ran away, they were the ones that were in hiding. But in the town, in the cities, I mean, in our part, in the Western Ukraine, no. There were no, because the action, the killing was done Erev Sukkot, Erev Shavuot, and then that's it. There were no Jewish people. So they did kill us Jewish people before they opened up the gas chambers in the concentration camp. I guess it was too slow for them.
And that was the mass graves that you were talking about.
That's what the mass graves were. In our town, 5,000 people. In my husband's town, 13. In Rovno, 17,500. It just like, and they herded us like cattle. But yet, they were in some places which you could, like in our place, burn the ghetto. But what else could you fight with? Because when the neighbors turn in on you, then you have no one to go to.
I think, Fanny, for our viewers and for our audience, it's important to put the context. You were one of how many Jews in your area? You said there's 13,000. I mean, they were all...
It is different area. In our town, 5,000 Jews were killed. And we're a small town. It's a village.
Have you been back there?
I was there 8 times.
Really?
8 times here. When Ukraine became independent in 91, because we couldn't go and visit the graves, in 92, I was there already. Yeah, a group from Israel, we went, and they're not that happy to see us. Oh, no. No, they're not that very happy. They figure out we came to take the places from them and so on. But who needs it?
You're saying you went to see where you were brought up, your school, your house?
Sure, I went because I knew where the graves. I knew in Kazakh. I knew where we buried them. Where my father, I knew it was in Sokhovolia, but we didn't know exactly where. But we found the graves in the deep forest. So I went and put up a monument. You know, Matsei, we fenced it all in and so on. Sure, we came to pay respect to them. You know, to tell them that they haven't been forgotten. And then we restored the cemeteries. Yeah, we did, in my husband's town, in my town. It's definitely, they cannot just leave them that says they've been forgotten. And nobody, as a matter of fact, I wasn't considered even a Holocaust survivor.
Really?
They weren't considered. Nobody knew about us. And we used to say, you weren't in the ghetto, you didn't suffer. I mean, you weren't and then came up a Kikstra on our doorstep in Calgary and was teaching social studies that I think like this never happened. So then we started to talk, because I didn't want to talk about it. It was too painful.
Wow. We are going to take a short break. This is Seymour Kazimirski from Seymour's World. We're on Think Tech Hawaii. I'd like to reintroduce Fanny Wedro from Calgary, Alberta, a Holocaust survivor. I've become a very good friend of Fanny's. We've gotten very close over the last few days, and my background is Polish, and Poland and Ukraine, and they're all mixed up. That's another story. But we were reliving some of our past and our history this morning. And I was giving a talk this morning at a senior citizen center. And I was amazed at how many Japanese people were there and how many of them were crying as I was speaking because they understood. Don't forget they were interned here as well. And the 442, their sons and daughters went to fight for America. but they were crying just understanding what happened during that war and how difficult it was and how important it is. One lady came up to me and she said, "What you're doing is God's work." She said, "It's so important for people to realize what demigods can do to this world, what people like Hitler can do. What about Syria? Look at what Assad is doing today." This morning alone, there are over 100,000 children that are refugees sitting in Lebanon because this mass murderer, this killer, this terrible man is just being allowed to do what he wants to do. So genocide is not over, and the lessons of the Holocaust are not over. Fanny, you have a friend. His name is Father Patrick Desbois.
Oh, yeah.
And he is a priest.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can get his video up.
Кидали їх, то 2 неділі така яма, от так ходила. Люди були живі ще там, живі були, але прикидали, ти її лягали, ти її знов зносили, і знов. Брали за руки так.
О, возьме раз і кинув.
І кинули, да. В яму. Живих, да.
Imagine 1.5 million are buried inside Ukrainian forests and nobody cares.
The mission of 52-year-old French Catholic priest Father Patrick Desbois is to uncover the unmarked Jewish mass graves all over Ukraine.
We make like police. We rebuild the scenario of the crime. We bring back the people on the site of execution and say, okay, where was the truck of the German? It was here, and so on and so on. And minute by minute, rebuild the scene of the killing, I would say. So we have really to establish the proof of this killing village by village. It was not a camp, it was a continent.
Father Patrick Desbois roams the countryside from hamlet to town, asking elderly residents the same question: where are the Jews buried? He's already uncovered 700 Jewish mass graves and estimates there are 2,500 more.
Труси, все, я їх здер, да, і лягай. І сам зайшов в яму, а вони тако лежать. Із автомата той поліцай самий, да. І тако стрось, а ми тако стоїмо, дивимося зверху.
Father Desbois' grandfather was a French prisoner of war of the Nazis in the town of Ravaruska, and it's there that he began his investigation. The communists denied any knowledge of the massacred Jews, but with the change of government, the situation changed.
The new mayor arrived 2 years after, and he said, "Tell me, Father, I will make you a surprise." He brought me in a forest like that, with 100 people of the village. It was the grave of the last Jews of Ravaruska, 1,500 people. And all these people from the farms gave testimony. They were present at the execution as children.
Нас ганяли, але ми хочемо, ну то діти, дітвора. Так став стручити, і йому пуля в ногу.
Відскочила.
З черепа рикошетом, і він зразу так розпіхувався, я глянув, ми всі хто куди.
Ну і потім, як це приїхав знову Радволинська, а ми стоїмо, всі пацани, скільки мені було, 10 років чи скільки там було. Ну а дітей ніхто не стріляв, так, діти, як батьки падали, то і тягнули за собою ці дітей.
The children of that time are today the elderly, and there were no passive bystanders in Ukraine, willingly or by conscription. Local police and residents were all part of the killing machine.
A girl, she was required to run on the Jews when they were killed. The killer killed the Jews in the grave, and he required 30 Ukrainian girls to run on the corpse to make them down, and to put a little bit of sand, and after they brought new Jews and so on and so on. The law was 1 bullet, 1 Jew. It was forbidden to use 2 bullets for 1 Jew. So when they are shot, I would say half of them are not dead. But they always say it takes 3 days for mass grave to die. So people are still moving.
Father Desbois says that at this point, time is of the essence, because in a few years there will be no live witnesses. How do you maintain your composure when you hear these horrific stories?
First, I try not to show my feelings. If I show my feelings, they stop to speak. My only question is what happened and where are the corpses?
Shoshana Gavietsky lives in Kiryat Gat, the only survivor in her family of the carnage in Ukraine. Shoshana started life as Tzivia Reisel Stramer and paid for false identity papers to become the Christian Yadwiga Korajay.
הייתי צריכה לצאת מפולין בתור נוצרייה, אז אבא קנה את התעודת.
קנה למי? לקומך?
בשבילי.
באיזה שנה?
שנה אני יצאתי ב-42.
42. איפה הם הלכו כל המשפחה לבלזק או הם הרגו במקום?
לי אמרו שהם תפרו את זה ואחר כך הרגו אותם.
The Hebrew-speaking priest has visited Israel many times and received a private letter from the Pope encouraging him to establish proof of the Holocaust by bullets in Ukraine.
C'est un très long texte qui demande pardon pour toutes les fautes que les chrétiens ont commis envers les siècles, etc., etc.
Father Desbois regularly brings groups of French Christian leaders to Israel to acquaint them with the many faces of Judaism. He feels this is the best way to combat anti-Semitism.
In the church, we consider anti-Semitism as a sin against man and humanity. You know, a sin never dies. We will have always to fight until the end of the world, because Jews are Jews and people of God, so it's a sin. A sin against God.
The details of the genocide of the Jews in Ukraine, Holocaust by bullets, are just being revealed. The results of Father Desbois' investigations are on display at the Holocaust Museum in Paris. 100 years from now, what do you want it to be said of the work of Father Patrick Desbois?
It's a regular guy who did something that was very simple and what was to be done. I'm not alone. I'm supported by a lot of friends. I have a team. I have the Jewish friends. I have the friends in the church. It's only to be a mensch.
We're going to talk about Father Patrick Desbois because I'm so impressed with what he is making a mission in his life for. Could you talk about him a little bit, please?
Oh, yes. Every book I read, so finally, I'm tired of reading of the Holocaust books, to tell you the honest truth. So, and it's the same story, but then I picked up this book, and I just says, my God, this is a man that was in my village, my town. This is the man that tells me the truth, that understands me, because no one could understand me. I said, this is the man. I have to meet the man, no matter where. So I kept following around. Well, with the name of Father Desbois, where would it be? In Paris. So I says, I'm willing to go to Paris. Just how do I meet the man? And I'm telling you, I just happened, there is a friend of mine, which when we went to Ukraine, he was on the same tour, and it was Steve, and I said to him, I phoned him up, I said, Steve, do you know, did you ever read the book? And he said, yes. I said, I want to meet Father Desbois. How do I get about it? Maybe you can help me. He says he's coming to Detroit. He said he's addressing the UN, and after that he's coming to Detroit. I said, I have to meet Father Desbois. And sure enough, it was arranged through the museum and so on, and I went in not last November before. It was November the 11th. He addressed the Jewish community and also from the museum. And I'm telling you, this is a man that dedicates his life. And the reason it's called the Holocaust by bullet, because the people, when we were returned, they don't want to talk. Just can't get nothing out of them. Everyone came after 45. His grandfather was a prisoner of war in White Russia. So he decided, and his grandfather was always sad, so he says, Grandpa, why are you sad? And so on. He kept telling the story of how it was. He says, it must have been very bad. He said, yes, but it was worse outside, because he saw what was going on. Anyway, that's what he made his mission. So since they didn't want to talk, so he got himself, why is it called by bullets? He went, he took a photographer, and he put an interpreter and a metal detector. And with the metal detector, he discovered the graves. He discovered 1.5 million people.
1.5 million?
A million and a half.
That were buried without headstones, obviously.
Without nothing. 1.5 million.
And where did he find these people?
Well, it's too bad you don't have the clip. Where he found between the people, he went to talk and he wouldn't talk. So for a few years, he made it. They've got to talk. Now, when they're in the late 80s, 90s, they started to talk. They see a priest and they want a confession.
Absolution, confession, yes.
And they started to talk. And they took him, they were children themselves. And he answered my question. For 70 years.
Let's show this to the audience. You can see that.
For 70 years, I couldn't figure out, you see, because when they were shooting the people, they were standing, even when we went now to Kiev, they said, they gave them the bullets and they fell into, you know, into the graves. But I couldn't understand how in the world, when we came to cover them up, they were flat. So I figured out that they could go there and shoot them individually. I just, you know, it always puzzled me. For 70 years till I saw this book. And in this book it reads that they took young girls that worked in the field and they trampled on the people. Because they took 6 at a time, 4 at a time, and shot them, and some of them were still alive probably, and threw them into the grave. And the bullets were given the back of the neck. So that's why it wasn't blood. Mm-hmm. So that's how, and that's what answered my question. So when I read this, it's not only the book, really, but I said, this is the man that I have to meet. And
what was it like when you met him?
Oh, it's very hard, you know. Needless to say, I didn't sleep all night. And then I came up I stayed at the same hotel he had, and then he came down. I knew right away who it was because he was a priest. He was carrying a book, you know, but he gave me a book. He marked down a coffee table book, To the Little Girl of Chords. Signed.
That's you.
Yeah. And what can I say, the feeling? I saw, I don't know if you know, in Hebrew we say Alamedvovnik, a tzaddik. Lamedvov, it's 56 people, which are the righteous people in the world. I saw in him because the man is going, when he goes to the rabbi from Lviv, you know, I'm sure you read it, and he picks up and he makes, you know, the eulogies and so on, the rabbi and so on. So, do you know what? It's like peace came over me. Like he answered my questions.
It's an amazing story. Father Desbois, and you're right, he's made it his life's mission, has decided that the Jewish people, the lost Jewish people, the people who were buried without headstones, they deserve a better life, even after life. And he is going around the Ukraine, all over the Ukraine.
Yeah, and in Belarus,
right.
Now he's going to Moldavia.
Right.
All over.
He wants to at least give them a proper burial. And he's not Jewish, but he's just so, believing in life is for everybody. There's no anti-Jews or anti-blacks or anti-gays. Everybody is equal. And he has done this. And there's parts in this book where he talks to Ukrainian people
yes.
who do open up to him, and they would not open up to other people. But they open up to him and they know what their parents, because they were very young at the time, what their parents participated in. In the movie The Aftermath that we saw, it was even a more dramatic story in which the Polish people in this very small town, the Polish people themselves herded all the Jews into a home, boarded up the home, and set the home on fire with the kids in it. Mothers and fathers, grandfathers, sisters and brothers, and they heard the screams of the people, and it's still they still did it. Is it conceivable to you that you could do something like that? I know I don't think I could. I don't care who is telling me to do it or what to do. I just can't see myself doing that to another human being. This is Fanny Wedro from Calgary, Alberta, a Holocaust survivor who's bringing us a story that has to be told. Fanny, you are now living in Calgary. Let's talk about something a little bit lighter. You're 86 years young. You're full of life. You belong to umpteen organizations and things that you do. I mean, I have to make an appointment to see you. That's how wonderful it is.
Father Desbois is coming to Calgary May the 14th.
And you're going to be there, I'm sure.
They're bringing, that was my birthday present.
Oh my God.
They opened up a foundation.
Yes.
The Fanny Wedro, which we do have the Holocaust, the Werdo Holocaust Foundation. But this, it's a fall-through foundation. And my friends got together, and they're bringing over for me. That was my birthday, 86th birthday for last year. And Father Desbois is coming to Calgary on May 14th.
That's fabulous.
Oh, yes.
I would love to come in and interview him as a guest for Seymour's World.
Well,
that would be fabulous to do that. May 14th.
Yeah.
I'll ask Jay Fidel if you'll let me go. We'll see. Let me ask you, you're here in Hawaii and you've been coming here for years.
The 51st year.
51st year.
When the island was an island.
Yes, when it was small enough to really enjoy Waikiki.
Yeah.
What are your experiences like here? How do you like it? You said some negative things to me about some of the situations.
Well, I don't know if I can say it here on TV if you allow me.
Sure.
Well, it's not what it used to be. The lost spirit is gone. You got too many. You can't go out in the evening because we can't sit out even on the bench. So it's all taken over by homeless, and it's sad.
Yeah,
You know, it's very sad when I see what Hawaii happened.
And you've seen Hawaii, obviously, in the old days, right?
Yes, I've seen Hawaii. Yes.
Yeah, there has been some.
When the girls were dancing with the grass hula skirts.
Oh my God! At the Kodak Hula Show.
No, that's it. Before that.
Oh, yeah, excuse me.
Down there was yet a taboo before it came to go, and Kalakaua was yet a taboo. And then Nikelekini appeared down there, Baba McGee. Nothing was there.
Now, do you remember the New York Deli? Do you remember my restaurant?
Oh, yes, I remember.
That's in 1976 when I got there.
I stayed at the Ilikai
That's right across the street.
And I came to your restaurant.
That's good, that's good.
But it was so noisy.
It was a noisy place, there's no doubt about it. Fanny, is there more work to be done on the Holocaust, or is the Holocaust a learning experience or a teaching experience? I know I do it, as you know.
It is a teaching experience, but what more we have to do is to our youth, to bring, they are the next generations. And they have to learn from the past what happened and what can happen.
And how do we do that?
Only by education. Only by education. That's the only way I can think. There's no other way, because when they read it in a text or so on, it's not the same.
I know that in Canada, my sister Heidi is doing the same thing as I'm doing. So we talk to schools, we go all over the place, but we're trying to get it to be more a curriculum issue than a paragraph issue. Because right now, if you go to most of the private and public high schools, the Holocaust is a little paragraph in the Second World War that says 6 million Jews and so many other people were killed during the war called the Holocaust. And we would like to bring attention to it, not so much for what it was, but to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And it's a very, very difficult issue. I know that here in Hawaii, I'm working with the Department of Education, and I get more calls from teachers every year that are asking me to please come and talk to the kids. And most of the calls that I get are from public schools. And it's wonderful because the teacher prepares the kids. And by preparing the kids for a Holocaust presentation by me, they have to watch a video, either Schindler's List or one of the other Holocaust videos. They have to read my mother's book, and they have to be prepared to write an essay after the class, after my lecture to them, about what the Holocaust is all about. And that essay is then graded by the teacher and me, and the students get some type of reward. And I think that education is the only way to make the Holocaust a viable alternative for the kids to understand tolerance of other people, to understand the problem we have about discrimination, to understand anti-Semitism, to understand bullying. All of those issues become very, very strong when kids are 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on and so forth. So when people say, why do you keep doing this? I don't do it because it's the Holocaust. I do it because I know it's a method of teaching. I think it is.
We have in Calgary, it's our 30th year, this year. We have a symposium, which they're not forced to come. Grade 11 or 12 students are coming in Mount Royal University, and I think they accommodate about 3,200 students in 3 days. And the ones which can't accommodate, I'm asked to come to the schools, and I never refuse, because if you reach 1 or 2, you did your job. And then when we had the 25th anniversary of the symposium, we had there a Judge Abella from the Supreme Court. She's herself a parent's Holocaust survivor. She was born in a DP camp. So she said, and in the meantime also a teacher came and spoke, and the teacher's from Strathmore. And she said, the teacher, I don't know, I was a normal kid, a child. And something, there was I was 17 years old, and when I came to the symposium, there was a lady, I don't remember her name, what she said, but she was the one that told her life in the forest, and that turned my life around.
And that was you?
And she became, yeah, that was me. I was staying at the Safeway when a lady came over to me, and she said, because I don't know, they asked me for an ID, whatever it was. So she says, oh, I only know the name. It's familiar to her because she's a druggist, but she doesn't work in there anymore in the pharmacy. And I said, I see her. You can trust her. Seen her only for 20 years, fine. Then she comes over to me. She comes over and says, are you speaking in schools? And I says, yes. She said, thank you for bringing my daughter back to me. I said, what do you mean? I didn't even know. And she says, well, she came and she turned around. She was a wild teenager, and now she completely turned around when she heard you speak.
Wow.
So somehow, and by the letters which I'm getting, and the poems, so I must be reaching.
That's how I feel too, Fanny.
And if I reach out to someone,
that's the key.
That's
the key. Here in Hawaii, I have to commend our military, and I'm talking all the military, Army, Navy, Marines. They ask us every Yom HaShoah, which is in April, and we call it the Days of Remembrance. And they do every year. I go and speak at either one of the armed forces, and they have hundreds of military people that show, and I'm not talking about our age people, I'm talking about young guys in their 18, 19, 20, 22. Some of them have never heard of the Holocaust, but the military insists that they come to our talks, and they want them to know what happened during that war, how important it is to fight for your country, to make sure that Holocausts don't happen again. It's a critical issue for us.
Yeah. I was today when I was with you. There was a lady, and her mother-in-law was a Holocaust survivor, and she doesn't know nothing about the Holocaust. That's the first time that she saw the movie, and she heard about it. It's the first time.
For those of you in our audience who want more information about the Holocaust, you can either contact me or Temple Emmanuel. There are, of course, online, there's various places that you can go to. But one of the things that I find is so important, Fanny, is that we have individuals talk about it. And God bless you, you're 86 years old, 87 soon, I understand.
Never mind, I'm dyslexic, I read backwards. Being Jewish, you read from right to left.
So you're going back.
Yeah,
thank heaven for that. But it's been just wonderful that you've joined us here today, and I wish we could have more time to talk about it. From my point of view, it's obviously in my heart because I do it. I do it because I want to do it. I think it's part of what I'm meant to do, is to help people understand the Holocaust and tolerance, and it's for me very important. Next week at Seymour's World, we have two young men coming to see you. One name is Daniel Chung, and the other one is John Flynn. These are two young men who I have mentored, and they are in their own business, working for somebody else, but their own division. And you will be so impressed with these two young guys who have really started to think about how to do business in the state of Hawaii. I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Seymour Kazimirski at Seymour's World.